So I want to show you how to get faster updates in Plastic SCM. This is intended to be a supplement to my other video about how to find any bug. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check it out. I'll put it on the screen somewhere. And the reason for this video is because if you're going through my guide, you may find that it takes a really long time to jump around in the history. And so I'm going to show you a workaround to avoid that and keep the process down to about 20 minutes. So here we can see I'm on chain set 572, which was back in April. That's about 7 months ago. And what I want to do is check out not quite the top chain set, but one of just something a little more recent. This is June 14th. And so I'm going to get that started. And at the bottom here, you can actually see that it's going to update 2.53 gigabytes. You can actually see an example here. There's an MP4 that it's taking a long time on, and that MP4 is 303 megabytes. So I'm going to go ahead and explain why this is and what we can do about it. So what Plastic is actually doing here is when you go back to a previous chain set, essentially what it does is it will delete files that did not exist in that chain set, so that you actually have a true copy of what your project looked like in that previous chain set. Now, other version control systems like Git, for instance, in Git, this process is almost instantaneous. But the reason this is taking so long is because now when I jump back forwards in time, it doesn't have those files anymore, and it didn't store them anywhere on my local computer, so it has to download them all over again. You can figure pretty quickly that if you're jumping over wide groups of changes in your history, this can take a long time. Like the estimate was initially 10 minutes, so we'll see how long this actually takes. I'm going to cut this part out of the video and just show you when it's done, and then I'll show you how we can make this a bit better. So here we are on chain set 694, and it did take about 10 minutes, which is a very long time to just get back to a point in the history that I've already downloaded once before. Now, ideally, I would love it if Plastic did not delete the files and just put them somewhere temporarily so you could easily get them back without having to download them again. But in the meantime, I can show you a really good workaround to help speed this up dramatically. So if you go to your Workspace Explorer, you actually have an option called cloaking. And what cloaking is basically marking files or directories as items that you don't want to download for whatever reason. Maybe they're just very big, which is exactly our case. They're very big files, they're unrelated to what I'm working on, and I don't want to download them because it takes 10 minutes to do that. So you go to your Workspace Explorer and you can right click on any file or directory, come down here to add to cloaked list. Now I'm going to do this for a couple folders, and this is very project specific, so you'll have to figure out what these folders and what files are for your project. But once you've identified those, you can mark them in the Workspace Explorer. I'm going to click the art and audio folders because I know there's a lot of art and audio that get updated throughout our history. Altogether, they are quite big files. So I'm going to right click here, go down to add to cloak list, and I'm going to do it using the full item path here, and we'll see what that looks like. So here, these are the exact lines that are going to be added to the file, and I'll just click yes here and show you where it gets changed. So now here you can see the status. It says control/cloaked. So from now on, Plastic will not download these two folders. And what it actually does is it creates this cloak.com file if it doesn't already exist. And if I open this we can see that that's exactly what it looks like. You can edit this file manually if you want to go to plastics documentation to figure out what formats you can do here. I'm actually going to delete this and do it again to show you like kind of the full story here. So now you can see they're not marked as closed anymore. And so if you remember when I updated my workspace to a much newer version, it was spending a long time on this particular MP4. And that MP4, there's one here, and this is the MP4 it was taking a long time on. It's 303 megabytes. There's another one that's marked as fixed. That's also 303 megabytes. I really don't care about these MP4s. Um, Now, these MP4s are just kind of in our project's root where you can't just say mark this whole folder because they're individual files that are just scattered. And there may be some other MP files scattered along in other folders. So what you can do here, instead of marking each individual file, you can still do the same thing here. You can right click add to cloak list, and actually you can right here you can actually edit what it's going to put in the configuration file, and it accepts wildcards. So I'm just going to type in asterisk.mp4. Also, I want to include the meta file, so asterisk.mp4.meta. That's something that Unity creates automatically. And there's also some uncompressed audio files. So those are .waves that are also pretty big, and I'm going to exclude those as well. So I click yes, and now you can see it has cloaked the art and audio. It's also, you can see that it actually will show you what else is cloaked based on that wildcard. So all these MP4s are now marked as do not download, and that's going to speed things up significantly. Now, again, I'll show you the cloak.conf. Literally all it did was just paste what I typed in there. You can create this file manually if you don't want to use the GUI, but the GUI is a pretty good springboard to get started. And now I'll show you the effect that that actually has on your project, on your switching your workspace. So I'm going to go down to 572. We're going to switch my workspace to that. And it's doing its thing. So that was marked as a 10 megabyte change. So now we're at 572. And if I jump back up to 694, let's see the difference. Oh, look at that. So much smaller. Instead of 2.2 gigabytes, now we only have 285 megabytes. And this might finish in under a minute. Yep, so that finished in under a minute, and that's a dramatic improvement over 10 minutes. If every jump in the history that you made could potentially take up to 10 minutes, trying to use the divide and conquer technique could take like an hour, where, you know, it could take an hour or 2 hours, where really what you're doing should only take about 20 minutes. So I definitely wanted to show you this because this was a big pain point that I noticed after I started recording, and I'm like, absolutely nobody's going to use this if it takes them 2 hours. It's already tedious enough when it takes 20 minutes. And so you can apply this outside of divide and conquer. This really applies to any time that you want to avoid downloading really big files that you don't care about. So it definitely speeds up the workflow for using the divide and conquer significantly. So I hope that helps. Definitely go back to the main video and finish watching it. You should be able to do this process a lot quicker than you would if you didn't use cloaking.